Afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Pfeiffer. This is Conversations on Retail. We are here this afternoon with Kara Goldin. She's the founder and CEO of Hint. She's also the author of a book called Undaunted: Overcoming Doubts and Doubters. And I will tell you, and I mean this completely sincerely. I've read a lot of books written by a lot of people that are very, very accomplished, and frankly, the books just aren't any good. And Kara sent me a copy of her book, and I then found that it was available on audio and being read in her voice. So I had an opportunity over the last several days to, I feel like, more than just learn her story, but also kind of get to know Kara. So thank you so much, Kara, for making the time to be with us, and really looking forward to having this conversation with you and hearing the story about Hint and all the cool things that you've done. Just in the way of housekeeping, the folks that have joined a little bit in a few minutes, I'm going to enable your microphones. And when we get to the end, I hope that you'll come up with some questions to ask of Kara. We want this to be an interactive experience, but I want to give her an opportunity to get through kind of the story first. So Kara, if you would tell us, let me say, in getting through your book, the first part, pre-Hint, all the things that you accomplished, even as a young woman, and then in your early part of your career, is exhausting. Give us the short version of that up to the founding of Hint and how you found yourself starting this CPG company.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you. Thanks for the nice introduction. I basically was interested in finding health when I ultimately decided to start my beverage company, Hint. But it was, really kind of, I think, shocking to me and to many other people that a tech executive, as I was known, and also prior to that, a media executive, would come up with this idea and really have the courage to go and launch a product that I believed would actually help not only myself and my family get healthy, but also a lot of other people. And that was really the driving force. The mission, the purpose behind the brand was really kind of what drove me more than anything else. As I mentioned, I was a tech executive prior to founding Hint. I had been at a company called America Online and was there pretty early, not in the super early days, but a few years in. And basically I was part of an acquisition that they made in online shopping, which today I think is considered historical, sort of the early companies, a little company startup called To Market that was acquired by America Online. And so my role was really to work with other retailers, some startups, people like Jeff Bezos at Amazon, in the early days when he's building out bookshelves, as well as larger companies like The Gap and J. Crew. But it was when I decided to take a couple of years off. I had been at America Online for 7 years and built almost $1 billion business with a whole group of amazing people, that I decided I'm going to spend some time with my family. And I wanted to not know the United Airlines pilots that I was seeing every Monday morning in my travels better than my family. And it was at that point when I just decided that I want to spend some time getting to know them. And in the course of that, that's when I was really looking at everything that I was putting in my young family's body. And I had 3 kids under the age of 4 at the time, not what most people would say would be the ideal time to go and start a company. But I just became really passionate and interested in kind of how I was feeding them and how I was, frankly, parenting them. And one day I looked at my own habit, diet soda, Diet Coke in particular, and saw all the ingredients. I had never read ingredients. I just assumed that by reading sort of the front label, the diet, that was better for me, healthier for me. And so I decided to eliminate that drink from my life. And that's when I had huge changes occur, including the fact that I was really thirsty. I wanted to find something else to drink, but I knew that I just didn't like the taste of water. It was super boring to me. And so I started slicing up fruit and throwing it in the water, thinking that that is where I'm going to be able to get myself to drink water. And 2.5 weeks later, after drinking this concoction that would eventually become Hint, in making it in my kitchen, that's when I lost 24 pounds. My skin cleared up that I had been fighting for years. I had terrible adult acne and some rashes, and never had associated that with diet sweeteners and sort of the effect that it was having on my body. And so, of course, I wasn't going to go back to drinking my diet soda anymore, but I became really curious about how these ingredients were, changing me, and or not having these ingredients were dramatically changing me. And I felt like, I bet there's a lot of other people who don't know this about diet sweeteners. And this, by the way, was in the end of 2004. And it was at that moment when I went to the grocery store that I started looking for a product that would really help me drink water, something similar to what I had created in my kitchen. I never thought about becoming an entrepreneur. I had worked for incredible entrepreneurs, but for me, it was really this aha moment, realizing that this product wasn't on the shelf. And if I could do something that would help a lot of other people recognize this and help a lot of people get healthy, then that would be awesome, right? Like, that would make me feel incredible. And so Hint was born in San Francisco, and Whole Foods in San Francisco, in 2005. And today Hint is the largest non-alcoholic, privately held flavored water in the US today that doesn't have a relationship with Coke, Pepsi, or Dr. Pepper Snapple.
I love the story so much, and I read every bit of the extra weight that I carry. I'm not afraid to talk about it. Every bit of the extra weight that I carry is because of my addiction to Coke Zero, and it's not just what's in it, but it's what it causes you to crave and all these things. So you've definitely not opened my eyes, but caused me to look at it again. So when you started the company, you and your husband, as you said, were both very successful in your careers, making lots of money, working for exciting technology companies, and you left, but it wasn't easy from the beginning. There were definitely some challenges, making it shelf stable and all sorts of things. Talk about some of the early challenges when you started the business, maybe some of the things that you didn't anticipate, and especially kind of talk about those moments where you were tempted to walk away, even give it away to the man who called you sweetie.
Yeah, well, it was I wanted a product that similar to what I had made in my kitchen, that was an unsweetened flavored water that didn't have sweeteners in it, but also didn't have preservatives in it. And again, having not come from this industry, I had no idea what I was asking the bottlers to produce was impossible. And so I would ask many bottlers how this product, why can't it actually be produced without preservatives in it? And the first question people would ask me is, where did you work at before starting this company? And I'd say, America Online. And they'd say, America Online has a beverage? I had no idea. And I'd say, no, no, no. So they were quickly discounting me because I did not have beverage experience, which, today I think was actually a positive for me versus a negative, because instead I was asking a lot of questions. I was curious. I had already had my business hat on from other industries, but again, I was asking the questions and trying to come up with solutions that were nobody had really tackled before. But after about a year, that's when I started to get really, you know, feeling defeated more than anything else, because I felt like I didn't really know how to produce this product that really many of the stores were asking us to kind of up our game and have a longer shelf life, and all of those things were just really tough. And I thought maybe I should actually go back to tech where I really understand the business, much easier, more money, all of these things. But I kept hearing from consumers how this product was really helping them to get healthy, and that was, you know, really an awesome thing and a huge driving force. Finally, a friend of mine said to me that she knew somebody at Coca-Cola, and that maybe they know how to produce this product without preservatives in it. Maybe they also would take it on for distribution, because we were getting a lot of people reaching out to us asking us to be able to distribute in Denver, for example. And I was based in San Francisco. It was a long car ride away for me to be able to distribute in Denver. So I went in to this introduction thinking maybe they could help us in a couple of different ways. I was super prepared for the meeting, and had my deck and everything. Had was actually a phone call, so I'd sent the deck ahead of time. And after about 15 minutes of giving this gentleman, very senior executive at Coke, a little glimpse of kind of what I had accomplished, and we were in, you know, a handful of stores in the Bay Area, but nothing too serious that we couldn't, you know, manage on our own and out of my Grand Cherokee. That's when he interrupted me and he said, "Sweetie, Americans love sweet. This product isn't going anywhere." And I was like, did he just call me sweetie? This is crazy. I mean, I had never been called sweetie before. And a lot of people have asked me, you know, why didn't you hang up the phone? Why didn't you say something to him? And, you know, it's funny because I think I was just in such shock that I just sat there on the phone. My dad said to me, "Good thing you weren't sitting there in person. That probably would have been very uncomfortable for both of you." But instead, what I realized was just by listening, I was able to listen to what this very senior executive believed was the consumer of the future. And yet I had a year's worth of data from my own consumer who was telling me that they were very focused on getting off of sweeteners, and that they didn't like the taste of water, and how a product like Hint was helping them to achieve health. And that was when, you know, at the end of the phone call, after 45 minutes of basically listening to his strategy and his belief of the consumer, which was totally counter to what I was seeing, that's when we ended the phone call. It ended pleasantly enough. And I'm pretty sure that he thought I was going to quit at that point, that we were done. And instead, I thought, I have a choice. I either give up and throw the towel in, go back to tech, or I throw my foot on the gas and get going. Because listening to the consumer and having an idea of what this consumer was really looking at, maybe it was going to be a little bit further in the future, as it turned out to be, but was something that I could see that maybe he couldn't see, having all of that experience. So they didn't distribute the product. They did not produce the product. And that's when I thought, I've really got to focus on how to actually get the product produced. And I just need one production facility, which we ended up finding. And then also realized after that point that things like stores were super important to our distribution, but also direct to consumer. Lots of things that I had had experience doing in my previous life too. So eventually, as Steve Jobs used to famously say, the dots eventually connect. And so that was, you know, has really been the journey of Hint for the last 17 years.
Great stuff. I've got a couple more questions. I already see that some hands are going up. Again, if anyone has any questions for Kara, go ahead and click that button that says raise hand. And when we get to the end, I'll call on you. And we don't have her for more than 11 more minutes, so we'll try to be concise. How have you been able to keep the business private? What I've seen, the last numbers I've seen, the company's worth $150 million. You're doing business all over the country, all 50 states, I think. You're in and out of Starbucks and some other really big retailers. How have you managed to scale the business and keep it private? Because it had to have been terribly tempting to sell or to bring in a lot of investment, lose control of the business.
Well, I think that the key thing is that when you're starting an entirely new category, it's we knew early on, and I'll back up. I mean, I've shared this with other entrepreneurs and creating their own category. To create an entirely new category is something that is exciting on many fronts, but it actually takes a long time. And primarily because you need to educate the consumer on why this new category, unsweetened flavored water, is relevant. And so in many cases, we had a lot of investors in, even in Silicon Valley, who had known me from tech, that were interested in potentially investing, but decided that they really feared, if Coke or Pepsi ever came out with a competitive product like this, what would, we would be roadkill along the way. And so it was, our strategy early on to really bring in mostly individual investors that really were passionate about the product. Another thing that we did from a distribution standpoint was we got into Silicon Valley, into a lot of offices. So we became the largest beverage in Silicon Valley. So a lot of what we have done from a kind of angel investor, cloud sourced, profile, I think has since been mimicked, I think, by a lot of other founders who are looking to grow a product. But I think it's also, a lot of the mission behind the brand. When you look at a lot of beverage companies that are out there, it more and more, some are coming out with sort of that mission, but we were kind of ahead of our time in many ways. But I think for us, more than anything, as we've grown, and certainly direct to consumer has saved the business significantly. We are way bigger, by the way, than $150 million valued company. But we, definitely having a direct to consumer business, especially as offices were shutting down, which was not a significant part of our business, but a nice, chunk of our business prior to COVID. It really, really helped us to be able to service the consumer.
I'm excited to see my friend Mike Bach on, and Mike's got a question. Mike comes from a background in the beverage industry. Mike, go ahead and ask your question.
Hey, Kara, great story. I've been one who's worked in I worked for Coke, and then I worked for some other new beverages along the way, and saw your product out there, and always was fascinated by how you got it to market. But there are two things on my mind, because it seems like, you've really talked about the purpose of the brand, which is, you're wearing that in spades today as you talk about it. But I'm curious how other ESG initiatives play into your ongoing business strategy. How is that working? And then I have another question if I have time, but I know there's some other people that want to ask questions too. But I'm really curious about your ESG thinking going forward.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, because ESG means different things to different people. Was there something specific?
Just sustainability primarily. I mean, but I'm environment sustain. I'm just curious how you're framing that and how you're thinking about that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think we don't get a lot of options to sort of. I mean, our focus has really been on the inside of the bottle, but many people have talked to us about plastic, for example. And so, plastic gets a bad rap in the packaging industry. And we've done a lot of work at Hint in terms of trying to figure out what is the best packaging. For example, many people think that cans are a better alternative, but we definitely have seen that cans are not only difficult to get during this period of time when many of those cans are actually produced in Asia, but the air quality issues that go on when you're actually producing aluminum is not quite as healthy as many understand. And we have different issues with that, I think, in packaging that, again, one of the reasons why we've chosen not to use it. Also, I think that there are things that we've done around, for example, the closures. Like a lot of people, including me, when I was first looking at putting the caps on, as I used to call them, the liners on the inside of the bottle. I mean, I think we were one of the first to do away with using a liner in the bottle because that would actually make the product not recyclable.
Right.
And then also when you look at the recycling systems around, a lot of the plant-based bottles, for example, and you talk to many of the recycling systems throughout the country, the plant having different materials inside of plastic actually screws up recycling systems in many cities throughout the US. And so a lot of times that plastic has to end up going into the trash versus actually where the consumer thinks it should go, into recycling, because they're not sitting here thinking about, oh wait, this has to be, this because it's plant-based, it can't go into the recycling center. So there's a lot of confusion, I guess, is the aspect that we really have realized. And we've written a bit about it at hintgreen.com and some of our research that we've looked into. But again, I think in a perfect world, packaging there is none. But I think that the tricks that go on to really get the consumer to believe that companies are doing better in many cases is something I think that needs a lot of work.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that. Yeah, and you also sit in a city where social matters a lot. So there in San Francisco. But I want to let others have their question. Thank you for your
Thanks, Mike.
thoughts. I appreciate it.
What's next for Hint?
I think more than anything, if there's one good thing that came out of the last couple of years, it's that I think the consumer is more focused on health, right? They're looking at, whether you believe in, vaccines or masks or anything else, you're looking at, how do I stay healthy? How do I not end up in the hospital? How do I take control a little bit more? And so we're seeing more and more that this consumer is becoming, aware not just of the sweeteners that they're putting into their system, but also, the food, and that they really have to kind of take the reins. And so I believe Hint fits front and center with that strategy, continuing to grow the category. Interestingly, I mean, there's plenty of people who are doing unsweetened flavored water in the carbonated space. Hint also has an incredible product that is in the carbonated space, but Hint not only created the category of unsweetened still flavored water, but is also, far and away the leader in that category, and will continue to grow, as not only in stores, but also at the direct to consumer level too.
Well, again, thank you so much for making the time to visit with us today. It has been so nice and really fun getting to know you and to celebrate your success and that of your team. And like I said at the very beginning, there's a lot of books out there that have been written by people with great stories, and then there are really good books, and this one definitely falls in the really good category. I would highly recommend if you're a reader, or if you're like me and you spend a lot of time on the road and want to check out the audio version. Besides the book, I know Kara's got a very successful podcast. I would encourage you to follow. I intend to do exactly the same thing. So again, Kara, congratulations on the success of you and your family, because I know that you've all been kind of all in on this from the very beginning. That one of the things I enjoyed so much about the book was the first 12 bottles were sold by your children out of your garage for $2 a piece. And I think that is so fun to see, a family go all in on something. So again, congratulations. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. You too.